Joining me now, Trevor Kavanagh, political columnist at The Sun. Good morning, Trevor.
Good morning, David.
Nigel Farage clearly not leaving this alone. He's absolutely incandescent over the way he's been treated. And, of course, this story which ran on the BBC, Simon Jack wrote that. He'd sat next to Alison. The story said he didn't have enough money to meet the minimum requirements for Coutts. It now transpires that wasn't true.
No, it wasn't true. And I think that one of the results of all of this is that quite a few people are going to end up with enough money to be able to join Coutts' account system because they're going to be paying out millions to customers. Richard Tice possibly among them. He doesn't need the money. But tens of thousands of ordinary customers have been blocked by Coutts and other banks for simply having views that they don't like. And it's long overdue, this action. And we owe Nigel Farage a great deal for exposing this, which is in our midst, a system which is vetting the private opinions and public opinions of ordinary individuals in this democratic society. It is absolutely unacceptable. And heads must roll, starting with Alison as chief executive of Coutts Bank.
I mean, it is interesting. Coutts has very much changed tack and has embraced equality, diversity. They covered the front of their office in the Strand in a big rainbow to show their inclusivity. But at the end of the day, the bank is there to provide services. It is not there to provide some sort of social comment on your views, on your political views, or indeed on your personal views.
And precisely. And it's certainly not their role to try to move or persuade the government along any particular social policy line. They're supposed to be looking after yours and my money, not my money in this case, but the money of their customers, who I think must be looking at this with very jaundiced eyes, and I think they will lose customers as a result of their conduct here.
I mean, it seems extraordinary to me that actually it's not just Coutts, it's many banks that are actually debanking people, and I wonder where this went wrong. Where were banks, so suddenly banks were allowed to block people from having a bank account, and I would argue it is a fundamental human right to be allowed to have a bank account.
Well, this is absolutely true, but David, this spreads even wider and further than banks. This goes through the whole process of our commercial fabric. And behind the scenes, there are people exerting pressure. I've written a column today about an organisation, very shadowy, most of our viewers and listeners will never have heard of it, called Common Purpose. It's a very, very large, now global charity set up in the 1980s in the Tony Blair Labour era, not by Tony Blair, but by people who support the sort of things that Labour want, like the question of green energy and diversity and equality, all of the things that the Coutts Bank are putting on the front of their building in London. And this is a rather sinister, because it's shadowy and secretive, organisation which is trying to shape our society by stopping people saying things that they disapprove of.
And what's your view in terms of the BBC's behaviour? Yet again, the BBC mired in controversy, Simon Jack refusing to apologise. Quite frankly, I mean, I'm interested in your view. You're a very seasoned columnist, a very seasoned journalist. Simon Jack should know better. If the story is false, he should retract it, which they have done, but he should also apologise.
Well, this is one of those rare moments, David, when this is totally black and white. What we know for sure is that the reason that Nigel Farage was debanked or unbanked was because of the fact that he had views on Brexit and other things which were seen as unsavoury by Coutts Bank. This was a fact that was known to journalists and others, including the bank, but Simon Jack took the line that was given to him by Dame Alison, the chief executive of Coutts Bank, over dinner the night before, publishing a story which proved to be wrong. The very least he can do now is to apologise for that and put things right. So there is no alternative here. This is not a grey area, not a shadowy area. It's a simple fact that he's got wrong.
I mean, I find it extraordinary. Nicholas Owen, who is obviously a very well-known former BBC newsreader, has also now waded into this and said that the corporation must apologise. He like you, says it's a black and white issue. He says that actually Simon Jack is a jolly good journalist, good at his job, but actually, obviously these facts are wrong. The facts are simply the other way round, as Nigel has demonstrated. Put your hands up and say sorry.
Yes, and I don't think that Simon Jack, for whom I have to say I had a very high regard, I thought that he was one of those really straighter than average reporters on the BBC. I thought that he followed a line which was the facts rather than opinion. So I'm a bit surprised that he hasn't actually taken this advice from Nick Owen, and will have to do so eventually, because Tim Davie is now embraced in all of this, and he will have to impose discipline on the BBC. The BBC is in trouble in so many ways that it cannot afford an issue like this to take over the agenda, which is going to dominate it for it. This is not the end of the story. This will run and run.
And may I ask you finally about the government's house building plans? Because, of course, the government is meant to be building 300,000 homes every single year. It's failed miserably. Rishi Sunak standing up today, or indeed the government is standing up today to say, actually, they're going to make planning easier. They're going to build 1 million homes. They're going to build up. They're not going to build out. They won't build on the green belt. They'll be able to convert shops and farms much more easily into accommodation, and that you'll be able to do home improvements. Do you believe it?
I'll believe it when I see it. I mean, turning shops and offices into homes is much more difficult than it sounds, because what you have to provide is the sort of plumbing that goes with a home that doesn't go with an office. One set of toilets will suit a whole floor of office space, but it won't do for a suite of flats. And that is major disruption. It's almost as difficult to convert a block of flats or a block of office space into living accommodation as it is to build it from scratch.
Trevor, very good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for your time. That's Trevor Kavanagh, political columnist at The Sun.